Hey yo, I'm Creato. Today I'll be showing you how to build this pale oak tree farm that uses TNT to blow up the logs and also stores them all for you to collect from the chests. Also, please make sure to leave a like and hit subscribe, as all your support really means a lot. To use this farm, all you need to do is hop in the minecart and flip the lever to turn the farm on. And then you can start placing down the pale oak saplings, which will be immediately grown once all 4 saplings have been placed. Then the TNT will be dropped down so that it can blow up the leaves and logs, which will land in the water. And then the pistons push the bottom logs back up, so you can place more saplings while the droppers below you give more saplings to keep using. This farm works on both Bedrock and Java, but if you are building this on Bedrock Edition, just know there is currently a bug that prevents saplings from growing if there are logs above. This means you would need to clear out the logs after the TNT explodes, so the saplings can keep growing if you're on Bedrock Edition. And here are all of the materials you will need to build this pale oak tree farm in your own world. Plus, you will also need a 22 by 23 block area, so you can have enough space for this farm. Start by going to the red block, which is where the first chest will be placed. Place a double chest right there with another on top, and then 2 more rows of double chests in front. And then place 3 temporary blocks on the left side of the chest, followed by 3 more temporary blocks above the chests. Now place hoppers pointing into the back of the chest with 4 more hoppers above, all pointing into the temporary blocks. Then place 4 temporary blocks on the left of the hoppers, and place 4 more hoppers, all pointing back to the top temporary block. Then place an additional 4 hoppers with all of them still pointing to the temporary block on the right. Now you can head back down and remove all of the temporary blocks that you have placed so far. Then place 3 blocks to the side of the upper left chest with another block on the ground, 1 in the ground, and 1 next to the bottom chest. And then place a comparator on the first block facing away from the hopper, followed by 3 redstone dusts, and with a repeater in the middle and a redstone torch on the left block. Then go into the hopper next to the comparator and put 41 pale oak saplings in the first slot with 4 other items in the rest. The 4 items can be anything, but just make sure that it is something that will not be produced by the farm, like torches. This is for the item filter, which will send the saplings back to you and everything else into storage. Now you have the storage system and item filter all done and are ready to move on to the next part of the farm. Place 3 blocks next to the bottom hoppers with 4 blocks in front of the first row of blocks. Then place 5 redstone dusts on the blocks, starting from the upper right block, followed by a comparator and a repeater in the middle. And then place a temporary block on the ground in front of the comparator with 4 droppers, all facing upward above the temporary block. Double check that you are using droppers and not dispensers. Then place an observer facing into the redstone dust next to the dropper, and place 2 more observers above the first one, followed by 2 more on the left side of the observers you just placed. And then place 4 temporary blocks in front of the hoppers, and place 4 composters above the 4 hoppers closest to the temporary blocks. These composters will just help reduce lag a little bit. And then place a block above the last composter with another block above the observer in the middle, and then a temporary block with another block above. Now you can remove all of the temporary blocks that you have placed so far. Then head back to where the item filter is, and place a hopper pointing into the bottom dropper. This will allow only pale oak saplings to go into the bottom dropper, and then move up until dropped out at the top. Now the item elevator is done and connected to the storage, which means you can move on to the next part of the farm. Count 5 blocks away from the block between the dropper and observer, and place a block on the 5th block with a temporary block on the left and another block on the temporary block. Then place another 3 blocks around the top block, followed by some redstone dust above all the blocks. And then place observers facing toward the 4 redstone dusts on the top. And make sure all the observers are facing downward toward the redstone dust. Now place 3 temporary blocks to get above the observers and place 4 sticky pistons, all facing upward above the observers, followed by dirt blocks above the sticky pistons. Now you can place another hopper above the last hopper followed by 2 blocks behind the back dirt blocks. Then place a dropper on the right facing upward, with another dropper above facing to the left, and then a dispenser to the left facing the dirt blocks. And then place another block on the left followed by a repeater to the side of the dispenser facing the dirt, and then a redstone dust next to the repeater. And then place 4 blocks in front of the dropper, with 2 blocks on either side, and then 4 more blocks above. This will be the inside of the area where you will stand to place down the saplings. Next, place another temporary block above the ones you placed earlier with another block above. And then place some more blocks to fill the space below the dirt blocks. Then place a temporary block to the right of the dirt blocks with another block also on the right. Then place 2 more blocks to the side with 2 more rows of blocks above. And then you can place 4 blocks above everything on the back side. Then drop back down to the ground and place another 4 temporary blocks going up to the side of the hoppers. And then place a block above the temporary block and fill in the rest of the space to the left side of the dirt blocks. Also make sure to place a block to the left side of the composter next to the hopper. And then you can get back out of this area and place another block to cover the last empty spot next to the composter. Now you can remove any temporary blocks that are still on the ground and place 8 more temporary blocks to get back above the dirt. Then you can remove the temporary blocks on the dirt and place a rail and hopper minecart on the top hopper. This hopper minecart will collect some of the items in the spot where the rest of the hoppers wouldn't be able to. Then you can break the rail without moving the hopper minecart and then place a top slab above the hopper minecart. Now you need to push the slab into the hopper minecart, which you can do by using a piston and lever. Then you can remove the lever and piston after, and then place a redstone dust on the slab. This redstone dust is what will detect when a tree grows and will activate the rest of the farm. Next, place a fence gate in the corner and then open it. And then place a water bucket in the other 2 corners so that both of the water buckets will flow toward where the fence gate is. Now all of the items that fall in the water will get pushed to the hoppers where they will then be sent to the item filter and storage system. And this is now the area where the saplings will be grown all done, which means you can move on to the next part of the farm. But first, make sure to check the chests and remove any items that fell in, since there is probably one of the rails that you will need there. Then go back to where the droppers are and place some temporary blocks to get above the top dropper. Then you can place the 2 powered rails above the dropper and the block next to it, and then place the minecart on the rail. And then you can place the lever on the block on the right side of the rails. This lever is what will be used to turn the entire farm on and off. Then you can remove all the temporary blocks that are still placed down. Now this is the front of the farm where you will actually be using it all done, and you can move on to building the next part of the farm. Place some temporary blocks to get back up to where the minecart is, and then place 2 blocks on the right of the block with the lever. Then turn and place 6 more blocks going toward the back of the farm. And then place redstone dust on all the blocks you just placed. Next, place a hopper going into the lower dropper with another hopper on the right. And then place another hopper above each hopper, followed by a double chest above both hoppers. This chest will be your bone meal storage and will send items into the droppers below, which will then be moved into the dispenser, which will grow the saplings. So make sure to fill it up with as much bone meal as possible. But don't worry, since you could still easily access the chest once it runs out. Now go back to the ground and place 6 temporary blocks going up to the end of the redstone line. And then place a few more temporary blocks so you have space to move around, and then place a sticky piston next to the redstone dust. Then place a few more temporary blocks so that you can place an observer next to the hopper, but with the front of the observer facing away from the farm. And then place another observer next to the sticky piston with the front of the observer facing toward the hopper. Make sure that both observers are facing opposite directions and will line up when the sticky piston extends. Then you can remove some of the temporary blocks and place blocks below the repeater, followed by a redstone torch on the right and a redstone dust on the left. And then place a few more temporary blocks so that you can get below the block you're standing on. Then place another redstone torch on the side of the left block, followed by 2 blocks next to the redstone torch and redstone dust on the blocks. Then place a block in front of the redstone torch and place more blocks leading back to the redstone dust next to the repeater. And then you can place 4 redstone dust on the right blocks and 1 redstone dust on the left block, followed by a repeater. Next, place 4 more blocks extending away from the farm, followed by a repeater on each of the 5 blocks. And make sure that all 5 of these repeaters you just placed are set to 4 ticks, which is the most delay a repeater can have. Then you can drop to the ground and place 6 temporary blocks leading up to the last repeater. And then place a block in front of the repeater with a redstone torch above the block. And then you can go around and remove all the temporary blocks since they're no longer needed. Now all the redstone that grows the saplings and detects when a tree grows is done, and you can move on to the next part. Now go to the bottom of the farm and place 8 blocks to the right of the block with a redstone dust on it, followed by a temporary block at the end with a block above it. And then you can place redstone dust above all this line of blocks you just placed down. And then place a target block next to the second redstone dust with a redstone torch and block above. Then place another redstone torch above the block, which should be directly below the redstone torch placed at the top. Now the redstone that will activate the observers and sticky pistons is done, and you can move on to the next part of the farm. Place some temporary blocks to get to the top of the farm, and then go to the side where the chest is and place 7 blocks extending outward. And then do the same on all the other sides as well. And then go to the line of blocks on the front of the farm and place 8 blocks going to the left and 7 blocks going to the right. Then do the same for the back side of the farm, making sure that it lines up with the front side. Now go back to the line of blocks on the side with the chest and place 7 blocks on both the right and left sides. And then do the same for the other side where the storage system is at as well. Now place 3 blocks in a corner shape for each corner of the outline of blocks. Next, you can go ahead and fill all the space with blocks for the outline you have made for the platform. Now the entire platform above the redstone is all done, and you can move on to the next part of the farm. Next, place 2 obsidian blocks above the block where the repeater is. Then go to the left of the chest and walk to the edge of the platform and place a temporary block there with an obsidian block to the side. Then you can place blocks going all around the edge of the platform until you get back to where this obsidian block is. Now the outline of the platform plus the obsidian blocks are done, and you can move on to the next part of the farm. Now you can place water buckets on all sides of the platform, making sure that each block on the side has a water bucket placed on it. Now all the water has been placed flowing to the middle, and you can move on to the next part of the farm. Place a redstone torch 3 blocks to the side of the obsidian block, followed by another obsidian block and redstone torch above. Then place a temporary block next to the lower redstone torch, and place an obsidian block in front of the temporary block. And then place another temporary block with a sticky piston and slime block in front of it. Next, place a block above the sticky piston with another block followed by a temporary block above, and then 2 more blocks to the right. And then you can place a sticky piston facing downward in front of the last block you placed. Then place a block to the right of the sticky piston with 2 more blocks in front and 1 to the left. And then place redstone dust on the 4 right blocks, and then also on the 2 left blocks. Next, place a block above the redstone dust on the left, and to the side of the redstone dust on the right. And then place repeaters facing left between these blocks, and make sure to set the repeater on the left to a 4-tick delay, and the repeater on the right to a 2-tick delay. Then place a block above the redstone torch followed by another redstone torch block and then a redstone torch. Now place a block above the redstone dust in line with the sticky piston and place a tripwire hook on the right side of the block. And then place a string in front of the tripwire hook followed by some temporary blocks, so you can place the other block with tripwire hook. Next, place 5 obsidian blocks to cover the tripwire hooks and the blocks they are attached to. And then you can remove all the temporary blocks that you have placed so far. Next, place slime blocks under the sticky piston, going down with all the slime blocks you have. And then place a redstone block below the last slime block, which should also be 1 block above the redstone dust from earlier. Now the slime block launcher that will launch TNT is all done, and you can now move on to the next part of the farm. Now you can place 9 temporary blocks going back up to the water platform. And then place 6 more temporary blocks going back up to where the redstone torch is. Now place a block above the redstone torch followed by another redstone torch above. And then place a few more temporary blocks so that you can place another block above the redstone torch. Next, place some more temporary blocks to stand on so that you can place a dispenser to the right side of the block. Then place a block across from the dispenser followed by 2 blocks on the opposite side of the dispenser. And then replace the 2 temporary blocks in the middle with some more blocks. Then place a temporary block with an open fence gate in front. And then you can place a redstone torch on the side of the block next to the dispenser, followed by a block above the redstone torch. And then place another redstone torch and block above the ones you just placed. Now place a water bucket in front of the dispenser, and then place a block in front of the fence gate. Then you can fill the dispenser with TNT. Just remember that the more TNT it has, the longer it can go without needing to be refilled. Now the first TNT dispenser is done, and you can then move on to the next part of the farm. Place 9 temporary blocks going up on the block to the side of the dispenser. And then as you're going up, switch between placing redstone torches and blocks until you place the last redstone torch at the top. Then place a block to the side of the redstone torch followed by 10 more blocks going above the water platform below. And then turn right and place 6 more blocks. And then finally turn right again and place 1 more block. Now go back to where the redstone torch is and place some more temporary blocks until you reach the corner of blocks you just placed. Then place 2 blocks followed by a dispenser below the block 2 blocks in from the corner. Then you can place 2 blocks on both sides of the dispenser, followed by an open fence gate 3 blocks in front of the dispenser. And then you can put TNT in the dispenser, and then a water bucket in front of the dispenser. Next, place some more temporary blocks leading to the other corner of blocks, and then place a dispenser below the 1 block on the right. And then just like before, place 2 blocks in front and below the dispenser, as well as 2 blocks on both sides of the dispenser. And then once again, place an open fence gate 3 blocks in front of the dispenser, followed by TNT in the dispenser and a water bucket in front of the dispenser. Now you can remove all of the temporary blocks that you have placed, including the ones around the dispensers. And then place 11 redstone dust in a line next to the redstone torch. Then place a repeater set to a 4-tick delay, and then you can place redstone dust on the rest of the blocks. Now the entire pale oak farm is all done, and you can head back down and flip the lever to start placing saplings and watch them get collected and stored for you to craft with.